Magical Istanbul, Day 2. Disembarkation off the Viking Star and the post-extension fun begins. This would turn out to be the very best day of the entire trip. See why. If you're new, this is part of a video series, My First Viking Cruise, where I chronicle my adventures on the Viking Star and the cruise, Ancient Mediterranean Treasures. I also include our 3-day pre-extension in Athens and our 3-day post-extension in Istanbul. Check out all the videos on my playlist and check out my website articles where I share recommendations for each day. And you can also download PDFs of the shore excursions and the Viking dailies on my website. The Viking Star had been a part of our lives for a solid 7 days, and we were going to miss it all. The room service, the comfortable cabin, the elegant spaces, the friendly staff and passengers. It made me realize how much of a good time we had on Viking now that it was time to leave. It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. We had a very quick breakfast at the World Cafe before getting ready to leave our cabin for good and head for our post-extension excursion organized by Viking. And we were also excited by that too. The Viking disembarkation follows a very specific process that is outlined in a document that was delivered to your cabin about the day before or so when we arrived into Istanbul. The most important part of the process to know about are the colored and numbered luggage tags. They have a color and a number, which indicates the time and location of where you must be for disembarkation. The times vary based on the time of your return flight. There were groups, for instance, that were leaving at 1 a.m. in the morning. We had a disembarkation time of 8:30 a.m. However, all passengers are required to vacate their cabins by 8 a.m. So you can, roam around the ship all you want. You just can't return back to your cabin. The second important point of disembarkation was the luggage service. If you need help lifting and carrying your luggage, it's required for that luggage to be in front of your cabin door the previous night by 10 p.m. If you choose to opt out of that service, you will be on the hook. You're going to be responsible for carrying all that luggage yourself. Do not try to play the poor grandma act because it's not going to work. I saw it in action how the crew turns you down. You really do need to make sure that you have all of that locked down if you need help. We opted to carry our own luggage ourselves. It wasn't that much. We're light packers. And it just honestly seemed more inconvenient to have to leave it out and also carry a backpack with your change of clothes and toiletries. So we're just like, let's just do it all for ourselves. By 8 o'clock, we gathered in deck 1, waiting for our color and number to be called. The bar was serving cookies, treats, and coffee drinks. It was a festive Christmas time atmosphere. It was a really nice way of saying goodbye, especially if you wanted one last yummy to enjoy before leaving, or if you wanted to take pictures. Once called, we disembarked and we followed the yellow signs that were outlined along the path, where we were led to a large yellow walled locker area. You can't miss it. It's bright yellow. There, all the luggage is stored. You simply go and you find yours, pull yours out. They also had restrooms in this facility. We stopped to go one last time because we weren't sure on the post-excursion break when would be our next bathroom break. After getting your luggage from the area, you're going to want to continue to customs and immigration, where you'll need to declare what you gotta declare and move on, or get your entrance stamp from passport control. We had nothing to declare except for our excitement in touring through Istanbul, so we just went to get our passport stamp. Stamps in hand, we made our way to the excursion bus. There are signs everywhere, so don't worry about knowing where to go. You'll be guided. Our luggage was loaded onto the excursion bus and we were off to a whirlwind tour of Istanbul. The excursion bus took us back to where we were yesterday, the Sultanahmet Square area, and that was fine by us because there was still so much to see and so much to explore. The first stop on our excursion was the Blue Mosque, officially known as the Sultan Ahmed Mosque. It is a 17th century architectural masterpiece in Istanbul, famed for its 6, not 5, not 4, 6 minarets and stunning blue Iznik tilework, offering visitors a breathtaking glimpse into Ottoman imperial grandeur and Islamic artistry. The Blue Mosque is by far, in my opinion, the most beautiful of all the mosques we visited. Everything inside this gorgeous and majestic space felt sacred and serene. The colored, filtered light, the elephant columns, the towering domes, the overwrought embellishments and tiles. You're gonna need a minute to get yourself together because it's an overwhelming, euphoric experience. Seriously, amazing, amazing place. Afterward, we walked back to the bus and it took us to a ship that was going to sail the Bosphorus while we had some lunch. For some reason, I completely forgot about this and was pleasantly surprised when the bus landed by the dock. So what's going on? It was a wonderful way to sit and rest and enjoy some lunch. We made friends with some of our fellow passengers at this point, and I was completely caught up in having a grand old time with them that I forgot to get video and only some photos. Sorry. We did take some time to enjoy the stunning views, especially of Dolmabahce Palace, which just kind of blew our minds. We would be seeing that tomorrow. Cruising by boat through the Bosphorus Strait is an exceptional way of getting a big picture view of Istanbul, its old world grandeur, but also its enormous size. The place is huge. Lunch was a light and basic fare. Think something like hummus, couscous, roasted vegetables, and chicken, I think. It was great, but it didn't stand out, you know what I'm saying? Soon enough, the cruise came to an end and we boarded the bus onto the next adventure. Hagia Sophia was our final visit, another of Istanbul's grand mosques that we were so excited to see. If the Blue Mosque is considered the most beautiful, Hagia Sophia is by far the most interesting. Hagia Sophia is a monumental symbol of Istanbul's layered history. It was originally a 6th century Byzantine cathedral that has now been turned into an Ottoman mosque, functioning as a mosque-museum hybrid. And it is renowned for its massive dome, the Christian mosaics, and Islamic calligraphy that all together capture the spiritual and cultural crossroads of East and West. It was fascinating to see Islamic believers in prayer, while on the walls where they were praying, you see Jesus Christ and Mary with child and old Christian emperors. For me, Hagia Sophia in so many ways tells Turkey's origin story, an identity forged in antiquity, showing its Roman roots with the tile mosaics, and then with the Christian elements, and then with the Muslim elements. So many powerful and intriguing layers are here for you to savor and contemplate. This is a visit you will not regret. It will really, really blow your mind. Just down the road from the Hagia Sophia is the Basilica Cistern, which is an underground water reservoir built in the 6th century, like the Hagia Sophia, by a Byzantine Emperor Justinian I. It's a hauntingly beautiful water reservoir supported by 336 ancient columns. It is mind-blowing when you stop to remember that this incredible feat of engineering was built around 600 AD. Let that sink in. The lights against the basin of water provide an otherworldly, almost ethereal underground atmosphere. Like you could imagine Persephone meeting Hades here after she's forced to return to the underworld. Instead, they opted for it being a cave for Medusa. And that's cool too. We all love Medusa. We love you, girl. The only thing that annoyed me besides the crowds was the slow drip, drip, drip from the ceiling. If you have electronic devices that are sensitive to water, just be careful. Aside from that, it was honestly a remarkable experience, and it went by pretty fast too, which was also something nice because I was getting real tired. Real tired by this point. And if that wasn't enough excursions for the day, the tour guide walked us down the road to the Grand Bazaar. It was a lot like yesterday's Spice Bazaar, but on steroids. The big problem for me was the cigarette smoke and poor ventilation inside the bazaar. It was so bad that my eyes began to burn on contact and I could feel my lungs beginning to seize the literal second we stepped inside. If you have asthma, respiratory issues, or allergies, be extremely careful because it's like walking into an ashtray filled with dense cigarette smoke. I couldn't do it. I couldn't even stand there long enough to take a picture. That's how bad it was for me. So instead, we exited, we kind of walked around, we took a break. There was a Turkish version of Starbucks down the road that we tried, and it was just like Starbucks. We hung out, we had some Turkish coffee and snacks, and we waited for the group to rejoin. Finally, it was time to get to the hotel, and that was a good thing because we were cutting it real close for our evening night out. I'll talk more about the hotel in my next video because as soon as we arrived at the Conrad Hotel, we had to literally put our stuff down into the room and race back to where we had just come from to catch the prayer session of the Whirling Dervishes. Racing outside the hotel, we tried to catch the bus that would take us there, only for Google Maps to take us to the wrong place, and we missed it by seconds. Thanks, Google. The next bus would put us half an hour too late. So I had to open up the Uber app and I found a car nearby. I scheduled the pickup. Suddenly, I get this message from the driver telling me that in addition to the Uber rate, I was going to need to pay extra, like almost double the rate. It was rush hour, he tells me, and he's not lying about that. And cars were few and far between on the Uber app, and we had to get to this performance. So I agreed. It felt like extortion, but I had no choice. The plus side, he drove like a speed racer. I mean, we might have even been driving on the sidewalk at some point, but I wasn't questioning it, eyes closed. It was only until we got to the really old part of Istanbul near Sultanahmet Square that things went sideways, or should I say one way. All of the narrow one-way streets became this like torturous maze that just kept pushing us further and further away from where we were needing to go. I finally told him stop, and I gave him what I had, telling him, you didn't take us where we wanted to go, and so you're just gonna have to accept what I'm giving you in addition to what Uber's charging us. And that was like 60% of what he quoted me, and he agreed. So we just ran out of the car, bounding towards the performance space, and with minutes to spare, we see this orange and white cat that's standing by the gate. He greets us, rubs up against our leg, and we just follow him to where he led us to a human who scanned our tickets to go inside. We went into the waiting room for a few minutes, and then we were brought into another venue, which was a spiritual space where the session would occur. Of all the things on this cruise that I wanted to see, it was the Whirling Dervishes. Ever since I learned about them, they have held a place in my heart, my mind, and my soul, and we were here. My heart was beating with excitement and anticipation as we sat waiting for it to begin. Soon, in this beautiful spiritual space, a band began playing music, this kind of old Islamic music that sounded therapeutic and soothing. Afterwards, the dervishes, one by one, appeared and began their spinning. For those who don't know, the Whirling Dervishes are followers of the Mevlevi order, a Sufi brotherhood founded by the followers of Jalal ad-Din Rumi. Yes, that Rumi. The whirling is part of a sacred ceremony called the Sema, which represents a spiritual journey toward a union with the divine. It's not just an interpretive dance, it's a meditative, physical prayer steeped in ritual and symbolism. The Whirling Dervishes are not Gnostics by name, nor monastics by structure, but they're spiritual kin to both. They're Islamic, they're mystical, and devoted to the pursuit of divine love and unity, spinning not to escape the world, but to transcend ego and dissolve into the divine one. It was visual poetry to watch them, a visual salve that at once calmed me down and sent me into a spiritual space that made me feel incredibly light and free. It was so profound, sacred, and I felt honored to be part of something so incredibly spiritual and intimate. Above anything else, this is what I recommend the most if you're in Istanbul. There's a link in the description to where we went. I'm not paid to advertise this. I just really believe in this beautiful and pure practice. This for me was the very best part of the trip. After the spiritual practice was over, we took the tram back to the hotel. The tram line ended near Dolmabahce Palace, and it was about a half-hour walk to the hotel from there. There's a university in the area, so there's definitely like a young college vibe in addition to the hip residential feel as well. It's not touristy, so the walk was nice in that you get to mix with the locals, which I liked. To say that we were exhausted was an understatement, but I was also elated and so grateful. My heart was full. I had such an amazing day filled with art, history, design, culture, and spiritual wonder. It was enough to offset missing being on the Viking Star, and I did. I missed the Viking Star. Now, in the beginning of this series, I didn't recommend the pre-extension in Athens because I realized I could do it a lot cheaper by myself. However, I would recommend the Viking Post-Extension here in Istanbul because of how efficiently they used the Disembarkation Day. We were shown so much that it truly felt like we had experienced a huge part of Istanbul in one short day. Money well worth spending. It was I totally recommend it. Tomorrow would be our last full day in Istanbul that we had to ourselves, and it too would be full of more action and more adventure coming up.